Am I retarded? I
I
might just be
I
retarded.
think you might be.
All right, that's
No,
where
I'm
we start off the podcast.
messing. Welcome to the Space Turtle Show, the greatest show in the galaxy. I am your host, Joey Garvey, with my compadre, Mr. Joshua Toe. How are you doing today, Joshua?
There's this meme that's like, same soup just reheated, and I'm like, I feel
Oh.
how I'm doing right now.
That's a good one. I never.
This is The Dark Knight. We're doing The Dark Knight today in preparation for The Joker coming out tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that shows that we're a little bit behind and we're recording the day before, but it's okay. It's been actually a while since I revisited The Dark Knight. I went on this like binge of it. I know. How do you go on a binge of a movie? What, you watch it multiple times? Yes, I watch it multiple times and very, very many times at that. I went like a whole year watching it like 20 or 30 times that year.
Oh my
Um,
God. That's so
and
many times.
yeah, and I think it's been about at least 6 months to a year since I watched it again, before we got together and watched it together. What about you, Joey?
Yeah, that's the same for me, I think, because I also have binged it many times. Not not that many times in a year, but it's been about a year for me, I think, because I just watched it so many times that I wanted to give it a bit of a break. So it was
I
nice to
feel that.
watch it again after about a year.
I feel that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's one of the things I love to do about with movies is, you watch it so many times and then you're like, let's see what happens if I wait like a year. And sometimes with some movies, it's been like 2 or 3 years, and I'm like, all right, let's check out this movie now. I've been meaning to watch this for like a year, and then it
Yeah.
feels so good to come back to it.
Mhm. It's like getting all the joy of the first watch and then all the knowledge of multiple of being a seasoned watcher.
It's good. It's basically like a relapse, like a drug relapse. That's what I liken it to.
We got that ahead. What are our 2 favorite aspects of The Dark Knight?
Okay, two favorite aspects. It's got to be the acting, obviously,
Oh,
because
yeah,
Heath Ledger's in
obviously.
it.
Oh,
I
yes.
mean, like that's just objectively like you've got Heath Ledger's Joker, maybe the greatest villain in the history of cinema. Um, top 10 at least. Um, I at least you can make an argument that he's the best. I know a lot
Yes.
of people out there are like Darth Vader. Fuck those guys.
Darth
But
Vader.
or Hans Gruber or something.
Oh,
Um,
dang, you're really gonna start a fight in those comments.
I want to start a fight. Heath Ledger's Joker's the best. Um, I know it's a little cliche, but it's true. The acting for me, and he's so good. He kind of almost overshadows like Christian Bale, and Christian
What
Bale is
what do you
like,
mean almost, bruh?
yeah, he does, he does. But Christian Bale is like one of the best actors of our generation, and he gets
Yeah.
overshadowed by this guy. It's crazy. And then you got Michael Caine. Michael Caine, my favorite. Um, Maggie Gyllenhaal, huge step up from Batman Begins.
Oof. From, like, Katie Holmes, was that her name
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
first one?
that's what I was gonna say. A huge step up from Katie Holmes.
I haven't
Because I
seen.
I just mean to throw shade on everyone.
Yeah, you just started out with roasting me, and then now you're going on a roasting all these other actors.
No, I'm just in an aggressive mood today.
Man, everyone's in an aggressive mood today.
No, it's roast season. Everyone, there's not a lot of sleep, I'm sure, because ACL is coming up.
Yes.
Um,
Okay, well, acting aside, of course. What is your second? I'm curious.
the second one is tough because you have Christopher Nolan directing. This is gonna be dumb because it's the same one in the last 2 weeks. It's gonna be the writing also. I think
Oh,
David Goyer and uh well, I don't know. I don't think it would be the writing specifically because the dialogue is not my favorite part of this movie, but I think the the storyboarding in general, like just the story itself and the kind of questions it raises, was really original for the time, and it did something that I don't think a lot of people got from blockbuster action movies before, like the responsibility of the hero to what he's doing for his city and um, like the kind of responsibility you have to take for your actions and what is right and wrong in a scenario like this. Um, I thought those were questions that were really interesting and they never kind of got put on the screen that way in a high budget action movie before. So I think the story would be my other one.
It's like Christopher Nolan's gift is just taking these philosophical and like commentary on society and just turning it into these riveting action movies that also balance that commentary um on society and on human behavior and stuff like that, and just literally making it so complex and deep while also making every second so exciting. And I'm like, this director is just perfect for Batman and Joker and that dynamic in a film.
Yeah, it's so funny because this is the only movie he made based on another property so far, anyway. So it's really cool to see his take on something that we've seen so many times in the past, especially when it's been handled very like the Batman character's been handled very differently for when you go back to Tim Burton's Batman or the Joel Schumacher Batman knocked in the grave, or like the 1966 TV show movie that's freaking amazing. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. Um,
No, this is
but
definitely your territory. Yeah.
yeah, so he took the character and he turned it into like a legitimate Dark Knight, which
Mhm.
I appreciated um for its take. And he almost did it too well because now um character's been dark for so long. I um almost want something a little lighter at this point, but that's a conversation for another time.
It might sound a little bit blasphemous, but I was thinking about my 2 favorite things, and although they're just everything is just so good, I can't. So I ended up being like, "Okay, well, you're probably gonna choose acting, so we'll leave that for you." Because for me, like, Heath Ledger was, like, phenomenal and, like, a standout star, and everyone else
Uh-huh.
was really good too. But I only felt like Heath Ledger was the only star in my opinion. Um,
Uh-huh.
so I ins like and he totally deserves, like, all the notoriety and everything like that, but one person's performance wasn't gonna have me choose acting.
Uh-huh.
So I chose directing and writing. Similar to why you chose writing, but I chose directing because I mean, it also is a little bit of cinematography, but I'm pretty sure Christopher Nolan handles the camera a lot as well. But some of the most iconic shots in, like, movie history are, like, in this movie, and just
Yeah.
not even just one, it's, like, so many. You have, like, Batman standing over, like, the burning or, like, the charred building, and then
Mhm.
you have, like, Joker riding the police car away,
Yeah.
um, and then, like, just
The
so
circle
many.
shot with
Yeah.
him and Rachel,
Wait,
like
which one?
the Joker and
Oh, yeah,
Rachel
yeah, yeah, okay,
circle
yeah.
shot. That's one of my favorites.
Mhm. And then the one on the street where Joker's like, hit me," that one? Yeah,
There's so many. Oh my god, and then
yeah,
the
we
one where
forgot.
the truck just fucking goes all the way over, like, the big 18-wheeler.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
That
I was just thinking we forgot, like, the one where he stands and he's holding the mask, literally in the, like, the first, like, the second scene of the movie. after
Uh-huh.
they smash open the window and you see the Joker holding well, you don't know it's the Joker yet, but, like, someone's holding the mask and then he gets in the car, that
Uh-huh.
shot, and then the unmasking, ugh,
It's
like, I
it's all
couldn't.
so good. The cinematography, special shout out to Wally Pfister. I think he was
Yes.
the cinematographer for this one, and he oh, bloody brilliant. That's what I consider when I think about what directing is as opposed to, like, cinematography or editing or whatnot. I think about the flow of the movie the most and, like, how everything kinda blends together, like, the tone and how, like, if everything fits together and makes you
Okay.
feel all good. That's
Mhm.
what I consider directing, and
Okay.
he's, like, the best at it to me,
Yeah.
um, or one of the best. He's not the best, but well, I mean, give it 10 years, maybe
Yeah.
he will
He's
be,
just
I
gotta
don't know.
have time to become a classic. Let's see, writing and directing slash cinematography. I just felt that there was just so many iconic shots that just I just needed to look at a still of like half the movie and I'll be like, oh, chills. And of course the writing, how could you like I agree with you, some of the dialogue isn't the best, but uh, whenever the Joker speaks, I can't. I like that I don't know, maybe it's just my own bias against towards the character of the Joker and everything, but, the writing encapsulated his philosophy and added a new twist to it that was just, like, so interesting to listen to, and I literally never get tired of listening to Joker talk, even watching this movie, like, 50 times.
He's incredible, and I think it goes to, like, the performance and the writing. Um, I think another kind of character who I think they write really well is Harvey Dent. Um, he's one of the more underrated parts of the movie, I think.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
just in terms of, like, I think he's genuinely the heart of the movie. Like, if you
Mhm.
could boil the movie down to one character, I don't think it would be Joker, actually. I think it would be
Yeah.
Harvey Dent.
No,
Um,
definitely, yeah.
is he represents everything the movie's trying to show. Like, someone so great can fall so low.
He is, like, the middle, and so that when you watch the film, there's 2 extremes. You have Batman on the fully good and Joker on the fully chaos kind of, way, and you get to watch, like, one person in the middle, and it's almost like you try to do good like he does, even though he's probably better than most people because he has that, like, white knight kinda thing, but
Yeah,
you're
I
also
mean,
not, like,
he definitely
immune, you
is.
know?
'Cause he put, like, what, 400 criminals in jail in one thing? Like, oh my god. He really does not give a fuck. He was so not scared that it ended up costing him in the end. Like, he should have had a little more fear, I think.
What was your favorite part of the writing?
I think for me, it was the battle of philosophy going on throughout the movie. For me, it was deciding what is good, how can we do the best that we can, um, and is it okay to do something that the people don't want you to do? Like, do something that sacrifices people. Decide who lives or who dies, basically. If you're Batman, like knowing that people are gonna die, um, but deciding to hold out and try to make a decision that you think is best. Um, when should you become responsible to the people that you're trying to save? And I think that's something that they highlighted so beautifully in the movie. And I think that kind of internal struggle in the character is what I think they did best in the writing.
It's like that last line pretty much, but you can't help but be like, yeah, the whole film is just about that last line
Yeah,
that Gordon delivers, but I
yeah.
totally
That
agree.
the problem I have with this movie is it's so popular and it's been memed so much that all the lines that are really good, they've just all been memes, so you can't kinda say any of the lines without, like, laughing a little, you know?
But that's also like, wow, imagine a film becoming so mainstream, but, like, so well executed that it becomes still a masterpiece, and yet it's, like, memed in the mainstream.
Yeah, I think in 10 years, people will come back to these lines and be like, "Wow, this is really good again." But right now, I cannot say any of them with a straight face.
But yeah, I was just talking about how, that last line encapsulated the film. And that's kind of my favorite thing about the writing was that it kind of challenged this idea of a hero in a way that's, like, not brooding. Like, you never lose the hope that Batman has for the people of Gotham or just, like, the hope he has as a person. And I think that's a little bit about a little bit of what happens later on in film depictions of Batman, or even in the comics. It's like, oh, he's just dark and brooding because he's like Batman and he's just an emo kid. And I think
Yeah,
that's where you kind of lose the character because it's not about him being distrusting and, like, preparing for everything, and being, like, cynical and stuff like that. It's not just because he is that way, it's more because he has hope for people, but it's just been so, what's it called? Like, damaged,
yeah,
in so long, and it's so refreshing to see this kind of earlier Batman because it is a trilogy, so he only started being Batman in the first movie,
mhm,
um, and so that's a little bit of a gripe for the oh, well, I guess you don't know how long Batman has been Batman, in the Justice League DCEU or something
yeah.
like
I
that, I
mean,
forgot what it's called.
the
Um
in Batman v Superman, they wanted him to be like a grizzled older Batman,
Uh-huh.
so like they kind of skipped the middle. But
Yeah. But in this one, it was like he still had this hope for people, and he still has it like a little bit afterwards, after everything is finished. He's trying to look for someone that to that's greater than him that can replace him. And I think that's one of the biggest writing choices that just pulled the film all together for me. Like it on one hand, it's, like, super realistic because when Harvey Dent says, like, "Oh, Batman isn't looking to do this forever. How can he?" You know? He's looking for someone for the people or someone in the people to take up, his mantle and to be something better. So on one hand, it's, like, more realistic, and I love, things that are realistic. It's easier to identify with for me, because
uh-huh.
life is realistic,
Yeah.
like, so
Yeah. I would hope so.
yeah. So it's
Um,
easier to identify with, like, normal people than it is to identify with, like, Luke Skywalker or something like that, you know? Um
yeah. I was gonna say, I think one of the coolest things about Harvey himself is he's almost a motif to where Batman could go because of how dark and damaged that he is. Um, he's almost like a test to see if Bruce could make it that far. And Joker was trying to show that he could do it to anyone. And he did it to Harvey Dent. He really did him dirty. Um, and the effects of it almost hit Bruce as well in a very similar way. You could see by the end of the movie he was making a lot more riskier decisions ethically based
Uh-huh.
on his phone tracking, his interactions with Fox, and the way he went after the Joker. So I like the arc of his character throughout the movie
Mhm.
and how they kind of almost kept it going with it in The Dark Knight Rises too.
Oh,
How
yeah,
he
yeah, yeah.
continues to be tested and tested to see if he'll break his ethics and
Mhm.
you know try to win the day, but at what cost? You
Mhm.
know,
Yeah. That's the thing with, like, heroes is, like, you wanna think it's black and white, or, like, in the Marvel films, it's kinda like black and white or generally black and white, but there's a lot of gray in what's right and what's wrong and what situation you're in and things like that. And the situation where people are dying because he's not revealing his identity and he's not giving himself up. what is the right decision there, you know? Like the film wants to say that one way is like slightly more right than the other, which I would agree with, but
Yeah.
it's still an opinion thing at that point, you know? It's not just one or the other. It's kind of like what you believe leads you to what choice is the right choice, you know?
Yeah, and I think they do a good job of, telling you, like, Batman is not the greatest of guys, you know? I mean, he'd probably do better for crime if he just, you know, donated his billions to, like, get people out of poverty or something, but he has, like, a broken mental personality. He dresses up as a bat. He clearly has some mental, like, he's a little dislocated from reality himself in a similar way to Joker, which I liked how Joker noticed that and he kept playing off it and making him feel like he was outside of his element.
Oh, imagine being a hero.
Yeah,
Like, wow, why
yeah.
would anyone want anything at that point?
I think one of the greatest parts about that is that Batman doesn't entirely disagree with the Joker. He kind of understands that the Batman is something that is meant to be tossed out after. And so he has to he's just got to deal with it. He's like, "Well, I guess I'm the best you've got."
Uh-huh.
And going back to the last line of the movie, they're the one they deserve, you know?
And it's like so original, the story too. That's what I love because I read so many comics, especially about the Joker, because he's like my favorite character ever. And it's like true to the theme of the character and yet a wholly new story. Like it wasn't really a remake or like an adaptation of anything from a comic, but yet you can see that whole killing joke type inspiration in Harvey Dent in that one bad day can bring anyone down to the level of the Joker type theme.
I like it for its originality too because And, in cinema before that, like, they had really glorious interpretations of the Joker, whether it be, Caesar Romero or Mark Hamill or Jack Nicholson, but they were all kind of different. Like, they weren't quite as crazy as the Heath Ledger's Joker. But, like, this Joker, it took the idea of the Joker and it took it to its darkest elements, and he, uh really believed in, like, anarchy, which I appreciated a lot.
I don't know, some people I've heard, I guess, or something like that, like comics and stuff like that, where it's like the whole realistic aspect of the Joker almost is so good that it hinders him. And I kind of wanted to hear your thoughts on that because, for example, there is a shift in the character slightly in its portrayal in the film than it is in the comics. There's this whole clown aspect because, like, sure, Joker has like clown makeup and and he kind of like laughs and like is kind of like moves wonky and stuff like that in the film. But there's lost this kind of aspect of like, this is like a squirting flower and here's some like chomping teeth, like, and I'm gonna shoot this gun and it goes bang, but like it's only like a flag that says bang,
Yeah.
that kind of like goofy aspect of the character is lost in this film or for that realistic portrayal. Um, and do you think that I know you don't like I don't know how invested you are in the character of the Joker in the comics, stuff like that. Um, but I wanted to get your thoughts on whether is possible to do something that's both goofy and clowny and also as good as Heath Ledger's Joker, or it's kind of like a consequence of the realism, I guess.
Yeah, I think, um, I can totally see that point of view, and I think that's something that makes, Mark Hamill so good, and, like, the Batman animated series from the '80s is, like, that kind of combination that comes straight out of the comics, but I just think for the kind of movie that they were trying to put on here, it would have been it wouldn't have been right to I mean, he says some jokes, he gets a little goofy, but not really, you know? I
Mhm.
mean, he's not that funny.
Yeah.
He's not gonna put up a solid 5 at the Comedy Center. Um, like, I think that's the kind of way we're going right now is where, um, we're audiences are looking for darker material at the moment, and I think a
Mhm.
lot of that came from the release of The Dark Knight,
Mhm.
but it wouldn't have worked in the movie that they put on, but I am actually kind of craving to see that kind of Joker again because we've already gotten a depiction of the realistic, incredibly dark, anarchist Joker from Heath Ledger, and he did it perfectly. It's a malleable character where you can have a lot of different interpretations of what you think the Joker is. Really, most of all he needs is clown makeup and a gun or a knife, um, and to be crazy. Yeah, I like that he has so many different interpretations, and I think this movie highlights just one form of what he could be.
So what are some of your favorite lines in the film? I wanna ask that.
I like his two monologues about how he got the scars. I'm not gonna say the line because, like I said, I can't say any of these lines. Yeah, he tells, how he makes up different stories, and he just basically does it to make people afraid. Like the stories don't really matter in themselves. They're more of just a fear tactic. They look at his scars and they think he's a freak. And he leans into that role of a freak, even though he gets really upset when the one mob boss calls him that. And I think those kind of things are really what rounded out to me. Those and all of Gordon and Harvey Dent's talks this past watch really got me going. Like every time Harvey Dent opens his mouth and speaks about like his philosophy about where Gotham should go,
Mhm.
and testing that against whether it be Gordon or the mayor or Rachel. Um, do you have
Um,
any favorites?
definitely. I mean,
I'm sure. Yeah, I mean, I
it's a
mean, what
little
are they?
cliche, but I just love the interrogation scene. Like,
Oh
it's,
man,
like, too much.
never
I
go for the head.
can't. And then you wanna see a magic trick? That's
Oh,
the kinda jokes he tells, which is kind of, in in contrast to the what we were talking earlier about how, he's not, like, exactly goofy and, like, clowny, but he does tell jokes, but they're all menacing as hell.
yeah, they're not like I might get a little giggle out of his jokes, but mostly I'm just scared.
Yeah, I mean, I giggle because it wasn't pencil appear, but if I was sitting there, I wouldn't be laughing too much.
No. Yeah, no, I think that's a good point though. I mean, he really puts morality itself in a spotlight and kind of highlights the hypocrisy that we have as a society. And he makes a lot of good points against society, although he's very insane and he goes a little too far on everything. But the idea of us killing people when it's according to plan, um, I think that's something that really struck me in this movie
Yeah,
in particular.
that's a good quote too.
What
Okay.
What are your favorite moments of cinematography in the movie?
Well, I mentioned a couple in the beginning already, but
Yeah.
like I can't not talk about the the first scene where the Joker's holding his mask down, and he gets in the
Mhm.
car. That one, and then the unmasking, like,
Whatever doesn't kill
kill
you
you.
simply makes you stranger.
Oh, and the escalation of the music, even the music is good. Like the score, Hans Zimmer with the
Yeah.
the electric guitar. Oh my gosh. I told those 2. Let me think of a couple more, but do you have anything on off the top of your head?
I think the opening scene after the opening scene, the one with Batman, that shot when he jumps on the van and it's just a
Oh.
still of him just smashing a van. That is probably the most badass thing I've ever seen Batman do ever. That just like gave me goosebumps.
And it follows him getting smashed by a pole, though.
Oh my god, that's so funny though. Ah, it's really good. Actually, if we're talking about cinematography though, I do want to bring up well, I can't think of a specific part of the cinematography, but the way they shoot the the car chase, um, I think that's the best action scene of the movie is the car chase when they're trying to get Harvey Dent to OPU, I think. That scene itself, I think the way that they shot that was really good.
Just I have to bring up the, scene where the police department blows up, and he just
Mhm.
stands there, and everything just blows past him. Ugh,
Oh yeah.
and then he's riding the police car away. That's and the I
Yeah.
think that part, the acting, the cinematography, and also just a lot of it came from the score right there too, like how
Mhm.
the music starts to, like, mute a little bit as he's,
Uh-huh.
like, writing and, like, pushing his hair back and, like, licking his lips, out off the window of the police car. Oh, mhm.
But I've seen it so many times that I actually have a lot of I have not a lot. I've got a couple of negatives that I've been able to stifle out some small little nitpicks that I have. And one of them is I don't like the way that they shoot hand-to-hand combat in this movie very much.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
I just it's I think the action choreography for the hand-to-hand stuff, like I said, the car chase and everything, that, um, that I think is one of the most brilliant car chases in cinema, but the handheld camera, I think, was just a little too much. It almost went into shaky cam territory. It didn't really feel very imaginative. It didn't feel like he was it was really like they put a lot of effort into, like,
Yeah.
shooting the fight choreography, and I know it was meant to be, like, realistic, and it was meant to be a little more brutal and a kind of brooding fight style, but I thought they could have been a little more imaginative with that stuff.
No, yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think it was just an effort type thing, more like, I don't know, more than anything else. Because even the shakiness was, like, okay if, like, the choreography might have been a little better or if the camera was a little better, it would've been okay. But it's just, like, the handheld, shakiness and especially what comes to mind is the one where they're in the penthouse,
Yeah.
throwing that party for Harvey.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
exactly what I was thinking of.
yeah, and the fighting that and, like, the beginning scene, but I think the beginning fight scene where Batman and the imposter Batman or Batmen, but I think the one at least with the imposters, it was meant to look a little weird because he's like, "Yeah, I can't move in this suit." Um, but it also looked like looked like really, like he looked
It
like
looks
a
slow.
yeah, he looked like a person who is trying to fight 10 people, but he's just a normal person type thing.
Yeah. Like, he didn't feel, like, very invincible
Mhm.
in any of his fight scenes.
Yeah.
He didn't feel particularly threatening other than he's got a really, really good armor and a loud, intimidating voice.
Yeah, exactly. I think it would have benefited from some of the, like, special effects, or, like, harnesses that if they did, like, stunts on a harness, they would be able to bounce around almost inhumanly. Just, like, a little bit of that or, like, some here and there that could still make it semi-realistic. But I think they went, like, full on, "Let me just have a stunt double come in and try his best."
Yeah,
type
yeah.
tone. Yeah, actually kind of goofy sometimes, not gonna lie.
It was a little bit, and that I mean, it's not even, like, too big a deal because for it being, like, considered an action movie, it really doesn't put a lot of emphasis on the action at all, in my opinion. It's, like, the best scenes in the movie to me are the scenes where they're just in a room talking. I don't know about you, but,
No, definitely.
n even, like, the climactic action scenes, like the climax of the movie, the least interesting part to me was Batman fighting Joker's henchmen, as opposed to seeing if,
Yeah.
which passengers if the passengers of the ferries were gonna blow each other up. Like, that
Mhm.
was way more interesting than, Batman trying to get to the Joker in that
Yeah.
particular moment. So, that's in my head why I didn't end up going with cinematography just because of that, but
True, okay, yeah. I guess I just pick out the good things and I only focus on that. I'm
But,
like,
I
"Oh,
mean,
yeah, this
honestly,
part is
there's
cinematography
so
too."
much greatness in the cinematography. I think the cinematography was hindered, though, just because the action choreography itself, like, there wasn't a lot there, so what do you
Mhm.
do from a cinematographer's perspective?
Yeah.
Like, what do you do when the action choreography is really subtly stated? You probably go with handheld to make it seem more finished, so
Yeah, now that we're talking about some, like, gripes, yeah, I feel like some of the physics was a little bit weird. I mean, I know how you like that iconic, drop,
yeah, the
down
drop
onto the
thing.
car, but I'm just like, when I'm watching that for the 50th time, I'm like, "Why'd the car just stop?"
Yeah.
If it just kept going, he would just hit it and then just, like, fell off.
That's true, I didn't even think about that, that car would've just kept go yeah, Batman would've just fallen on his ass.
That and the whole,
That's
like
so true, like, hitting a car hard does not make it go in the park.
yeah. That and then, like, the whole idea that you can get picked up without the plane landing. I'm like, "Bruh, that whiplash would snap you in half, like, no matter how slow
Yeah,
that plane is going."
that
Like, what the heck?
that's rough. For me, like, from the first time I watched the movie, though, those 2 did not bother me,
Yeah.
as much as when Joker threw Rachel off a building and Bruce just jumped after her and
Oh,
they
yeah.
land on a taxi and they were just, "Okay." And that is just a false. That is false. They would have
Uh,
died
yeah, like,
or
what kind of freaking
at least
tri-weave
broken their legs. I don't even know how like, "Are you okay?" "Yeah." "No. No."
What kind of freaking titanium tri-weave freaking suit are you wearing?
Yeah.
That
I
shit's
mean,
like adamantium.
they showed the fall too. It's not like those wings really saved a lot of that fall. They
Yeah,
were
they're just, like,
falling.
flapping. They're like
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
my gripes, I guess, some of the physics, like, after the 50th time, it's like, it's just like, once you think about it for a long period of time, it's like, "What?"
Yeah. And it's not like those things are that big parts of the movie, you know? They're just like the little
Yeah,
things that,
yeah.
you see and you're like, "Eh."
Definitely able to hop onto it, like, while watching, like, the first couple of times. It's just if we had to, like, find some gripes, you know?
Yeah, that's like just CinemaSins moment, you know?
Well, okay, let's move on to the, acting, though. I know you wanna talk about that?
Yeah, well, we've already talked a lot about Heath Ledger's performance, obviously, you know, great performance, all that. I
Mhm.
guess I wanna talk about 2 well, we talked a lot about Harvey Dent already. I think Gary Oldman as Commissioner Gordon doesn't get quite his due,
Yes, I
as he
love
should
Gary
because
Oldman.
I think he's phenomenal in this movie. It I think Gary Oldman in this movie might be my favorite performance of his, um, to
Oh,
date.
interesting, interesting.
Which is it's a
Hot
hot
take?
take. It's a hot take because I know he plays a mean Winston Churchill, but I I don't know. I like his humanity in this movie, and I like how he is. I think he's most similar to like the average viewer. You know, he's that person that represents the audience where he's seeing
Mhm,
all of these huge personalities go against each other, whether it be Batman or Harvey Dent, the Joker, you know, in this constant philosophical battle. Gordon is like that realist who's like, I'm just trying to save the people of Gotham and doing it in like the normal way, you know, how
mhm.
any normal human would. I'm gonna join the police force. So I liked what they did with the character especially, and I think Gary Oldman does a great job with it. And it's really cool to see them give Commissioner Gordon his due because in the previous Batman movies, they really did nothing with the character. And for the kind of tone that Christopher Nolan was trying to put together for this one, it kind of makes sense that Commissioner Gordon has an elevated role, being a more realistic story. You'd probably have the police commissioner have a more elevated role for this stuff. But yeah, he really was one of my favorites.
I think the whole thing with his writing was, I think, what what enabled him to, rise up with the acting, though. I think one of the quotes that he says is, well, when Harvey Dent gets all, like, blown up and stuff, "I do the best with what I have. If I didn't work with people that you investigated, um, I would be working alone," you know? So
Yeah.
everyone has their kind of issues and their kind of, like, downfalls or pitfalls and stuff like that, their flaws, I guess.
Mhm.
And you have Harvey who's, like, super up there um in the moral type realm.
Uh-huh.
And you have Batman who's really up there in the moral type realm. One of them is like works alone because he can't trust anyone else, and the other guy is like pointing out all these other people that Gary Oldman shouldn't be working, or Commissioner Gordon shouldn't be working with. And Gordon's just like, you're like, um, I have to rely on other people, and sometimes you have to rely on people who you may not fully trust and stuff like that, who have like things in their past. And this almost kind of like, even though it doesn't work out in the end, not saying this
Yeah.
is any parallel to reality, but you kind of have to trust that people grow or grew, and people are able to do better, and almost that kind of sad reality that that's almost what's not going on right now.
Yeah. No, I
The
think
cancel culture and everything like that.
one of the cool things about Gary Oldman's character, he's kind of like he gives me the blue collar work kind of vibe. He's like all of this crazy shenanigans is going on. He's like, I'm just here to go in, go out, get my work done. I, I'm just trying to do what I can. You know,
Mhm.
it, he kind of is likable in that kind of way. You know.
Yeah. Like the normal person, it's like you said, he's a good person and he's doing his best. It's not like he's, like, slacking or anything like that, but he's not, like, putting the whole city on his shoulders like Batman or Harvey Dent does. He goes home to his kids and he's like, "This is what I
Yeah.
want," or, "This is enough for me," you know? Not
Yeah.
trying to go out there and freaking turn the whole city, on the right side by myself, that kinda stuff.
Yeah, and he's the only one with a family. Like, he's got
True.
people to, like he's got people, like, that he really has to he's gotta come back home to people.
Yeah. So yours is Gary Oldman. I kinda wanna highlight, like Christian Bale almost. Like, I know he
Yeah.
gets a little bit of a overshadowed, and then there's more like interviews where he's like Heath Ledger made him he says in interviews later that Heath Ledger made him almost not like regret his performance, but wish that he had pushed his performance as Batman harder. But I was trying to pay attention to him like the last time we watched the movie, and I don't mind his portrayal of Bruce Wayne at all. I loved his balance of that playboy billionaire, and the cynical, brooding type Dark Knight. There's
Mhm.
moments where he's like genuinely funny and arrogant and hilarious. like, where he, um, came into the restaurant and he's like, "Let's put some tables together," and then Harvey's like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, like, I don't know if they would let us," and he's like, "They should. I own the place." And then he, like, absconds, quote, unquote, with the whole, like, ballerina, um,
Yeah.
the whole yeah, ballet, like, group, and then when he enters, um, the fundraiser with all the girls in his arms, and
Yeah.
it's not just, like, things, like him entering, like, his later speech, is kind of has that tone of arrogance and making fun of, um, Harvey Dent with, like, the commercial, like, "I believe in Harvey Dent," and stuff like that.
Mhm.
That his acting tone in those are not, like, a perfect, but, like, they let off a dim-witted r I don't know if dim-witted is the right word, but not, like, Batman level intelligent, just a rich kid, flaunting his money and doing, like, things for his friends and stuff like that and having fun with life, and then he turns around and he's, like, super serious. Um
Yeah, I was gonna say he's actually my favorite Bruce Wayne so far.
Mhm.
Um, I don't think anyone's gotten the character perfect yet. Like, I think someone could come around. Hopefully, Robert Pattinson. We can cross our fingers for that. But I I I thought he did a really good job with the character. Obviously, Christian Bale can put out Academy Award level performances in his sleep. Um, which honestly, I think he kind of did in this movie.
Those are, like, the 3. I do love Michael Caine, like, everyone's performance is pretty good, like Michael Caine and,
Yes. Pain.
Maggie Gyllenhaal.
Yeah.
Wait, oh, we didn't talk about Harvey Dent. I
Yeah,
forget his
I mean,
name, but he's
we
so good too.
why am I Aaron Eckhart.
Yes,
I mean,
like,
he's incredible.
yeah. His
Honestly, second best performance as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. I don't know why we skipped over second best performance
I
and went for
I
that.
just yeah, I just, like I was like, "Well, we talked about Harvey Dent a lot," but I guess the
True.
performance itself, we didn't talk about too much, but, I mean, I think this was the performance of his career.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah, he has that, like, joy to be around and, like, that light, the White Knight of Gotham type vibe, like, when he plays, before he becomes, I guess, Two-Face, and then when he gets Two-Face, he's terrifying, like, I know
oh,
it's like, half of his face is, like,
good makeup,
um,
by the
you
way.
know Yeah, like, CGI makeup and stuff like that is great, but if you just pay attention to his other like, his normal half of his face, he's, like, terrifying too, like, you get a glimpse of it when he's interrogating the mentally ill, guy,
Yeah.
um, and even though he's, like, just trying to act because, the coin is, like, both heads and stuff like
Mhm.
that, but he's still, like, terrifying, like, a glimpse of the terrifying nature that he becomes right there. It's like, wow, that's good acting.
He's so good at both sides of Two-Face,
Yeah.
Like, he epitomizes the golden boy, like, he's got the blonde hair, eyes, like, person that, like, people just, like, kind of flock to, like, you're good Christian kid. But when he turns, he's, like, so terrifying. When he would yell or when he would, um, try to be intimidating, he honestly scared me more than the Joker did. Like, he
Yes.
was more intimidating than the Joker was because of how far he had fallen, and you got to see what he'd lost, and,
Yeah, no. Like, Joker's like what he says, like a dog chasing a car. He's like a force, and it's fascinating to admire. Um, but Harvey has this like anger in him, that he's so well portrayed by Aaron Eckhart, but the Joker's like, I don't know, maybe he's just like so far gone that he's like, he's not angry at anything. He's just like, this is how it is, how unfair everything is, and like, and then just rolls with it. Whereas like Two-Face has this anger inside him, and literally his yell when Gordon refuses to answer, like, what his nickname was at what they had, named him, I guess. And then he yells at him because he's like, "Say it." And I'm like, "Bruh,
Yeah.
that's, like, the most emotion in, like, the entire film, or at least in the acting sense. That and
Yeah.
maybe, like, whenever Joker yells at the fake Batman, like, "Look at me," those 2
Yeah.
yelling, oh my gosh, that, like
No, the
ooh,
that
I jumped.
literally what the first time I saw it, like, jumped in my seat. I was like, "Oh, no." I think I had nightmares about that. No joke. I was, like, 13 years old, like, yell."
He yelled.
You scared me.
But we talked about a little bit about our issues and
I guess I have a slight, ever so slight pacing problem with the movie to where I think it moves really fast until they catch the Joker, and then it feels like the movie's almost wrapping up, but then it doesn't. And which I like the story turn it took. It's just
mhm,
that I thought that the car chase and then catching the Joker and all of that was a little more interesting than the climax itself, which I
mhm,
thought was probably the weakest part of the movie, actually, in
mhm.
terms of like the story itself.
Mhm. So the true climax it's supposed to be is like tick tick tick, and then like right at 12 or whatever, it's like here we go, and that's supposed to be the climax, but it's actually like the smallest peak um of those 3 in my
Hmm.
opinion. And it's
Yeah,
like yeah, it's just like I don't really know how to reconcile that. Like I don't know why, but I want to say it's just because 3 hours. It's just that's just long.
that's what's so interesting about this fucking movie. It's like, oh, I don't know. Yeah, there's a lot you could dive into. We
But,
haven't even really talked about the love triangle.
I was about to talk about that with the opinionated part of it.
Oh,
Mm,
cool.
yeah. But yeah, okay, so what I was gonna ask was, what do you think the effect would have been if he received that letter that she gave him?
Well, actually, I mean, we kind of get to see it in The Dark Knight Rises when Alfred leaves and he
Oh,
tells Bruce
what?
what she said.
This film is a trilogy? Wait, what?
I mean, like, I could guess, but I kind of know the answer.
I totally
Spoiler: he
forgot.
doesn't take it very
Oh
well.
my god, what? I totally forgot.
But if you're talking like if he read it like right then and there,
Yeah, let's go with that. I
I
wasn't big dumb.
I think I don't think he would have put on the suit. I think he would have just cried like a baby. I don't know. Like I genuinely think that would have been I think that would have broken him. I think he would have just been like, "All right, fuck this shit. I'm
Yeah.
leaving. I'm a billionaire."
It's kinda sad because she says in the "If you lose your faith in me, that's okay, but don't lose your faith in people." And yet, we're, like, speculating that if he read that letter, he'd be like, "Fuck everyone."
Yeah, I mean, I'm almost certain that's what happened. And it's so sad because you can tell the whole movie that they're not gonna end up together. Like, that's not gonna happen. Clearly, her and Harvey had a better connection, honestly, is what I felt. I felt like they had better chemistry than her and Bruce. Not like the actors, but just like the characters. It seemed
Mhm.
like they were more ready to take it to the next step. I mean, they were gonna get married until she died.
That parallel is so satisfying, like, Alfred burns the letter, and at first you're like, "Okay, yeah, I guess that's, like, not, like, the right thing to do, but, like, the smart thing to do." But the ending is he sacrifices himself, as Batman and takes on the, "I murdered all these people, I killed, like, Harvey Dent," and
Ugh.
stuff like that, in order to he says, like, people need hope. They need to have their faith rewarded, and they have to have someone to believe in, and that person is Harvey. And at the same time, it's being done to him. He
I
has to have
never
hope.
noticed that before,
Yeah.
honestly.
He
That's
would have
really
lost
cool that you
hope,
mentioned
yeah.
that. It's
He would
almost like
have
foreshadowing.
yeah.
That's really cool.
Without the hope of Rachel being with him, or the hope of that Rachel would have been with him, he had hope, and so he used that hope to, like, instill hope on other I don't know, it sounds really
No,
retarded, but,
no,
like
I know what you mean, though. Like, he wouldn't have had the ability to get out of get out of his chair and go after the Joker.
another question I had, was who do you think won, the Joker or Batman in the
Oh,
end?
the Joker definitely won. The
You don't
Joker kicked his ass, bro. He kicked his ass so bad, he went into solitude for 7 years. The Joker just gut punched this man. It was a TKO knockout. He he did have an ace in the hole. Joker won as soon as he flipped Harvey.
I mean, I agree, but I'm gonna play devil's advocate for a second. But why do you think that the goodness that people showed, in the boats, by not blowing each other up is overshadowed by by the evil or by the insanity or however you wanna call it, of Harvey Dent, in the last scene?
That's a that's a good question. That's a very good question. Um, I think it was very I think it was very noble of, the what happened on the ships for them to decide not to blow each other up. I think
Mhm,
that was a very positive step, and I think that says a lot about, um, people when they have one another and when they're in a society together, as opposed to with Harvey, when the Joker isolates him from society itself and he just feels like he has no one.
mhm,
Um, I think that is kind of displaying the parallel of what it means to have other people with you and to understand that you're part of a system and a society. Where with the Joker, like he clearly has no one to fall back on, and he tries to get Harvey to show his point of view by eliminating everyone around Harvey.
mhm.
Um, and it works like that, which I think is very telling about, society in general. Like, you know, talking about the Joker movie coming up now, not that I've seen it, but, it talks about um, how if society like earns you or you don't feel comfortable or anything of the sort, like you feel detached from everything or you feel really lonely inside, it can affect you in ways that it wouldn't if you're just a normal person around a group of people and you understand that you're part of a community. So the Joker ended up winning because everyone brought up Harvey as this person that was someone who could not be brought down
Mhm.
against anything, and he proved that anyone could, which I think is a really important message in what he was trying to say the whole time. So I think he ended up winning in the end, because people put up Harvey as this huge, almost Jesus-like figure, like a messiah, that he turned out to be false.
Huh. Yeah,
So
that's a great explanation. Um
I good because I was making it up as I went. I was trying my best.
Um, but yeah, I almost want to bring a different parallel then because taking into account your idea that people need like a society or people to back them up um in order to have hope and to do good in society, kind of like how the people in there had other people around them, um and almost like a social barrier that kept them from pulling the trigger, whereas
Uh-huh,
like Harvey had everyone stripped away from him. Um, but I kind of want to parallel Harvey and Batman then, because that kind of fake hope
uh-huh.
that is given to Batman is the driving force of why he was able to contend against Harvey. And so the parallel now is not even those crowds anymore. It's like Batman versus Harvey Dent. And that's kind of why
Oh, that's
um
really interesting, yeah.
yeah, and that's kind of why your explanation um made me think of these two parallels, and how why I think that the Joker kind of won is just because if you look at these 2 more evenly, or like Batman is more evenly, a foil against Harvey than Harvey is with the crowds because, they're both, isolated people. Batman had someone, and that person was essentially a lie almost.
Uh-huh.
And so
It was.
the only
Straight
way
up.
that it was battle because of this lie that Alfred gave him. Um But that's honestly not even a bad thing. I kind of been thinking about it as like, oh, Joker won. That means life is cynical. Like no one cares. Everyone's bad, innately and stuff like that. But having this hope for people, um, and having other people care for you, like, yeah, I know, like it's a lie and everything, but Alfred like cared for Bruce Wayne, and so that's why he kept
Mhm.
the information from him, at least for that moment. Um, It's like, yeah, of course people are gonna be bad if they have nobody, and everything is taken away from them, but that's not how I wanna look at it anymore, because that doesn't really prove anything to
Mhm.
me right now, but I think the thing I wanna focus on now is how much good a person can do with just a little bit of hope. Like, even though it was a lie, Batman had just the tiniest bit, like, she's freaking dead.
Yeah,
The only thing he had was that she was going to, when she was alive, like,
yeah.
after he quits being Batman, maybe been with him. That's all
Yeah.
he had, and yet he took that and had so much that it rivaled, Joker and Harvey Dent in there.
Yeah, it turns out The Dark Knight had a more wholesome message than I thought.
And
What
I
a
can't
wholesome movie.
I know. I can't wait to see how, that kind of your, explanation of, like, being taken out and isolated, is gonna play out in the Joker film, because that, is gonna be the freaking theme of the whole movie, same as
Yeah,
Taxi Driver and everything like that, you know?
for sure, and, we can just take that right now and, plug our review coming up. We're gonna do a tiny little review of Joker.
Uh-huh.
It's gonna come out, like, Friday or something. So Friday or Saturday or Sunday. Yeah, thank you guys for coming to the Space Turtle Show. If you liked what you heard, give us a little subscribe, give us a little like, maybe a little comment if you want.
Yeah, maybe we'll have, thumbnails next time.
Yeah, we'll have a
Only
picture
if you
this
like the
time.
video. Only if you like
Oh,
okay.
only if we're pro enough.
We got a bunch more episodes as well if you wanna check those out. But yeah, a second, reiteration, we're gonna be watching, The Joker as soon as it comes out, and we'll have a 1 spoiler, or it might be 2 videos, I'm not sure yet, a spoiler and a non-spoiler review, and we're gonna be discussing the movie a little bit,
Ooh,
so
we could do
as
a
a
double
bonus.
spoiler and non-spoiler. And
Yeah.
maybe if he wants, we could have special guest Mason Toy.
Not not Mason. Not
What?
Mason Toy.
Mason Toy.
The
A
Mason
challenger
Toy.
has entered the arena.
But,
Uh, we'll see. We'll see what happens. No, I don't think Mason has a single hair on his chest.
I know. I would know 'cause I don't have any either. We're always like me and Mason are the most hairless people.
Yeah,
Except he has more leg hair than me.
that's a good thing though. Having a bunch of hair sucks.
I don't know about that, man. Isn't that
I
like a
just have a bunch of
testosterone thing?
scraggly hair on my chest, and it's like ugly. Like I've been considering multiple times to just shave it. All the hotties don't have hair on their chest, really.
Who are the hotties?
Like Harry Styles, all the cute boys.